All right, so let's get started. Great, so welcome everyone. My name is Max and I'm part of the AI Safety Asia team here. And warm welcome to everyone to this roundtable. This is the latest of our roundtable series, Minh-BSB-Vientiane. And I'll just give a quick introduction to AISA, what we do, the roundtable series, and then I'll hand it over to our keynote speaker before we start our panel. But we're looking to have a very productive conversation today. So just to quickly run through the agenda, we'll first have a keynote speaker, and then we will move on to the panel discussion for about 40 minutes, and then we'll have a QA for about 30 minutes. And we're looking to wrap up in about an hour and a half. Quick introduction to AISA for those who are new here. Welcome. This is the first event. Well, if this is your first event for AISA, we are a global nonprofit dedicated to the international governance of safe AI by Asia, starting in Southeast Asia. The roundtables is, as you can see, just one of the things that we do. We also strive towards our mission by doing capacity building for example, civil servants and junior researchers in the region. And we also look to publish policy research as well, focused on bridging the global north-south gaps in AI governance. And also you can feel free to scan our QR code there for our website. Our roundtable series is one of our signature events series. So we do this monthly, and we've been doing this for several months now, since last year. We do this city roundtable series around Southeast Asia to explore international AI governance questions and promote dialogue in the region. We bring together leading experts, policy, and stakeholders in the field of AI to discuss the unique challenges and opportunities of AI safety in the Asian context. Our next stop is actually the one down there, Phnom Penh, Dili, and Myanmar, which is actually coming up very soon on the 3rd of March. And we will be promoting that very soon as well, right after this one. So stay tuned. Follow us on LinkedIn. I think that's the best way to get our updates. And sign up for the next one if you enjoyed this one. So firstly, to kick us off, we have Tran, who is an AI education specialist at the FPT Corporation in Vietnam, where they study AI integration in the education systems and run international AI literacy and robotics programs. Outside of the classroom, Nguyen is a researcher at the Center for AI and Digital Policy Research Group and the Global Risk and AI Safety Preparedness Project. They are an advocate for international cooperation for equitable AI and uplifting underrepresented grassroots AI safety communities in lower and middle income countries. So I will stop sharing now and let Nguyen take over.
Hi, thanks, Max. Can everyone see this?
Yes, we do. There is a bit of an echo.
Do you hear an echo?
No, now it's perfect.
Awesome. Thanks, Max, for the introduction. I'm Nguyen, calling from Vietnam. I'm gonna start my presentation on the governance of safe AI in Vietnam, Brunei, and Laos. So just a caveat, this is just a brief and surface level overview of the countries, and most of what I've managed to find is from English sources. So if you're an expert or of these countries in the audience, I'd love to learn more from you. Without further ado, I'll dive into the presentation. So first, for Vietnam, Vietnam has positioned themselves as an aspiring regional leader in AI development with a comprehensive national strategy for R&D and application of AI by 2030. The country has established an institutional framework through multiple agencies and is actively developing specific AI regulations, including a draft law on digital technology industry that emphasizes ethical principles, safety, and risk management. Next up, we have Brunei. And Brunei is catching up with initial steps for AI development through its Digital Economy Master Plan 2025 and aiming to transform the country into a smart nation. And last year, they established an AI governance and ethics working group and has a personal data protection law that aligns with international standards. While still in the early stage of AI governance, Brunei is strategically focusing on building a foundational digital infrastructure and promoting AI knowledge and skill through collaborations between government and enterprises. And lastly, we have Laos. They are primarily focusing on developing basic digital infrastructure and improving digital literacy with a long-term vision with the National Digital Economic Development Plans extending to 2040. The country acknowledged their significant challenges, such as the lack of comprehensive cybersecurity strategy, limited personal information protection, and low digital literacy amongst the workforce. They are taking initial steps for infrastructure development, but AI-specific initiatives are still in very early stage. So in terms of major agency, Vietnam seems to have the most comprehensive agency structure with dedicated bodies of both policy and implementation. Brunei operates primarily through its Authority for Info Communication Technology Industry, IT, while Laos consolidates most efforts under the Ministry of Technology and Communications and other committees. Among the three, there's quite an imbalance between AI or digital strategies. Vietnam leads with a specific AI-focused strategy aiming for regional leadership, and they also have a comprehensive digital and data strategies. Brunei takes a broader approach through Digital Economy Master Plan, while Laos prioritize more foundational goals like basic digital infrastructure. For AI safety opportunities, seems like Vietnam is actively developing a framework and Brunei is establishing foundational elements also, while Laos currently have some challenges with basic cybersecurity and data protection, and also need to address fundamentals challenges before advancing to AI-specific regulation. While all three countries are committed to digital transformation, they are at different stages of development and face very different immediate challenge. Vietnam's advanced position could serve as a model for others, while Brunei's steady development and Laos' focus on fundamentals have a very different but valid pathway to digital development as well. Yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for listening. These are the citations, and I'll be happy to take on some questions.
Thank you so much, Tran. Would you like to take questions now or maybe at the end of the panel? The choice is yours.
If the audience or you have a question now, I can take it.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'll just say the best, well, really the only way, if the audience wants to ask questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we will read it out for you. Don't worry, I'm keeping my eye on the chat the whole time. So if there's any questions you might have, just type it out in the chat, I think in the bottom right-hand corner, and we will do that, both for the keynote speaker and for the panel as well.
So maybe we should give them a bit of time to just type in their question, and then if it's not urgently to be discussed now, we can discuss them after the panel, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, sorry, I misspoke. It's not It's not a chat, it's Q&A function, but it's the same thing. Yeah. Okay. Now I'll just move on really quickly.
Okay, then.
Sorry. I'll just quickly do the introduction for you guys. So now we move on to the panel. And we have a great lineup of speakers today. Firstly, we have Fahmi Osman. Fahmi Osman is the head of research and development at Cybersecurity Brunei, CSB, where he leads initiatives in AI-driven cybersecurity, secure by design software development, and emerging threat mitigation. He's a member of the Brunei Working Group on AI Governance and Ethics, and actively contributes to the development of the guide on AI governance and ethics for Brunei. And then we have Danh Nguyen. Zhang is a legal and public policy expert in the fields of technology, media, telecom, AI governance, and personal data protection in Vietnam, Africa, and Southeast Asia. He started his legal career at Baker McKenzie, YKVN, and has held leading positions at Viettel Africa and Deloitte, Southeast Asia. Next, we have Alex. Alex is the Chief Technical Specialist at strengthening the capacity and effectiveness of the People's Assembly System in Laos, project UNDP. He's worked in Myanmar, Cambodia, and Indonesia for over 13 years in the ASEAN region. Alex specializes in parliamentary development and emerging technologies. And last but not least, we are very honored to be moderated by Dr. Hoda Alkhzaimi, who is the co-chair for Global Future Council and Cybersecurity for cybersecurity at the World Economic Forum. She is also currently a research assistant professor at New York University, Abu Dhabi, and she is the founder and director of Emerging Advanced Research Acceleration for Technologies, Security, and Cryptology Research Lab and Center. She's also a director of the Center of Cybersecurity in NYU Abu Dhabi. I will hand it off to you now, Hoda. And
thank you so much. I think, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the introduction and the great kind of quick start for the panel. I would like to say good morning and good afternoon for our distinguished guests, esteemed panelists, and the valued participant across board coming from different parts of the world. I don't want to assume, so it's good morning, good evening, and good afternoon at the same time. And welcome to AI Safety Asia, AISA, first kind of roundtable panel. And today we gather here, as said before, to discuss one of the most pressing challenges of our time, which is the governance of AI safety in Vietnam, Brunei, and Laos. Thank you so much for Tran, for setting up the scene for all of us in order to understand the challenges, the opportunities, and the gaps that exist as we are building AI technology that continues to shape economies, governance, models, and security frameworks across boards in different regions. It is imperative that we strike a balance between fostering innovation and ensuring responsible development across board. Our discussion today will focus on how policymakers, industry leaders, and researchers can collaborate to address AI-related risks, ranging from cybersecurity threats to ethical concerns and regulatory structures and challenges that exist in the indigenous jurisdictions of Asia. We are honored to have leading experts been introduced. Thank you so much that are working with us on this panel. I think Tran will be joining us as well as part of the panelists, so we can channel part of our questions to her. I will start by addressing the question as we transition to our panel by asking an open question for all of our panelists. Given the evolving AI regulatory landscape in Vietnam, Brunei, and Laos, as we have seen across board, How do you see the balance between mitigating existential risks and addressing the spectrum of AI-related challenges that exist across the map today when we are building for economic competitiveness of Asia? Fahmi, Osman, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. First of all, let me check if you can hear me clearly.
Yes,
Right.
loud and clear.
Okay. In my opinion, at least for Brunei, as where we are still in the developing stage of AI governance, so to find the right balance is about prioritizing based on the impacts that comes with AI, and also we want to lay a strong foundation today so that we are prepared for the future of AI landscape. So with that in mind, I think our immediate priority or focus should be to address the immediate AI challenges or issues that are already affecting the society today. So for example, how do we manage misinformation and disinformation and deepfakes, which can manipulate public perception or spread fake news. So once we have this foundation, a strong foundation by having, for example, a solid AI governance framework, then I think we are ready to tackle a more advanced AI challenges, for example, the existential risk and managing advanced AI model and superintelligence risks. I think that's my opinion.
So a centric structure of framework of working together is essential. Thank you so much, Fahmi. What about your perspective on the different structures that exist on the tech legal space, Dan?
Thank you, Hoda. In my point of view, when we talk about risk, we must classify first what is the type of risk, what is the tier of the risk, and what is the threshold that we should apply. So for AI, we have X-rays, bias, misinformation, economic displacement, and so many others. So in Vietnam, we are trying to classify the risks the same way like OECD framework and the OAI Act. What is the prohibit risk? What is the high impact risk? And what is the high risk that we should address? But of course, everything is still on the discussion, and we are on the stage of drafting the new regulation, the new digital industry regulation, as we mentioned at the beginning. So in terms of this, there's two key of questions that we are trying to answer. What should be the hard standard? For example, hard standard apply to nuclear standard, to flying flying and air control. And so what is a soft standard, which is applicable for industry, for finance industry, for anti-money laundering, for capital ratio, for so soft standard is applicable to culture bias and local economic situation, and hard standard is applicable to nuclear standard, flight standard, air standard. So X-rays, what we are trying to address is X-rays is applicable with hard standard, and soft standard is applicable for other risk, which is vary by culture, which is vary by the economic situation of the country. So this is a way that we in Vietnam are trying to addressing.
Very interesting. So a very clear cut through taxonomy of risks, analyzing the power of soft law across different jurisdictions and sectors, and how can we learn from this to maybe build a framework of standardization for AI in the current jurisdiction. Alex, the floor is yours as well. How do you see this from the lenses of international organizations, especially in Laos?
So thanks a lot, Hoda. It's really an honor to be on this panel. I think it's a very well balanced panel. I'm not a technologist or a lawyer like others here. I'm a governance specialist. So I've worked with parliaments for UNDP across the world, but mainly in the ASEAN region, over 13 years, Cambodia, Myanmar, and I lived in Indonesia. I'm also clearly not from Laos, I think. I've only been here 1 year, and I'm an observer of the governance, tech, and AI development landscape in the country. But I think many of the issues we'll discuss today on the panel are relevant to countries I've engaged in across ASEAN. So my day-to-day work is supporting building capacity in parliaments to undertake lawmaking, representation, budget scrutiny, and oversight roles. And as AI increasingly impacts economy and society, the public sector, I think we're going to need these roles of parliament more and more. So look, I just want to address it first. In my position working with parliaments, why am I speaking about AI? I became interested in AI governance when I worked with the Parliament of Myanmar from 2015 to 2020. It was a fragile democratic transition that didn't last. And one factor was a lack of understanding by elected representatives of the disruptive impact of emerging technology and how to address it through regulation and public engagement. 2017, social media algorithms exacerbated a campaign of hate speech and disinformation against the Rohingya minority, and Myanmar MPs were unaware and unprepared. Since the military takeover in 2021, surveillance technology acquired under the democratic regime has been turned against protesters. And lawmakers at the time when they were procuring this were unaware of the dual use of this tech. So I think supporting parliaments to address the opportunities and threats of AI and other technology should be integral to what UNDP does and to international AI governance efforts. And it's a personal mission of mine to support a better understanding of policymakers of the opportunities, but also the challenges and risks of AI. So, you know, I think we're at a point AI is developing. The AI safety report released recently indicated in the last few months, developments in reasoning models and DeepSeek and other technologies are really transforming the landscape, impacting lives, work, relationships, and politics. Others have raised the risks of unchecked development, but also it can have a transformative impact when it's shaped in the public interest. So I've met policymakers across the world on AI this year, and they're wrestling with various challenges: how to create a conducive environment for adoption, how to leverage AI to address national priorities and development goals, but also how to mitigate risks and ensure that AI is safe. And what I observe and read from the ASEAN region is that there's a really big disparity, and I think the other panelists have pointed it out, across the region in AI strategy, in development, in industry, and in regulation. I guess Singapore is a real standout. I was lucky to visit there last June, and I saw this incredible incubator environment that AI Singapore brings, and these breakthroughs in regional initiatives like the LLM C-Line, which is trained on ASEAN languages. So there's a lot of incredible work, I think, going on across the region. But in Laos, we're really at a nascent stage. A number one priority, I think, is digital and AI literacy. At the moment, there's, as Nguyen pointed out, there aren't dedicated AI governance frameworks. And digital infrastructure is a key priority. And I'd say in this context in Laos, when I work with policymakers, it's probably incumbent on us to support them to understand the near-term risks first. When I've talked to MPs, they raise issues of concern around AI-related fraud, misinformation, disinformation. There's a real concern about how AI is used on digital platforms and how AI is used to respond to things like government communications. And this points to how policymakers are concerned about the broader impacts on political life and social harmony and things like this. So I think when I work with MPs, I try and educate on the near-term risks first, but as this progresses, incorporating understanding of the long-term risks. I think secondly, in Laos, without a really digital-ready workforce, potential economic displacement should be raised as a really critical risk early on. ICT skills development here remains a really big challenge, as Nguyen said, I think. And without these skills, automation could exacerbate economic inequality both here and in the region more broadly, I think. So you asked, Hoda, how can an organization like mine support? We can help develop national AI policies or strategies and help open the eyes to what other countries have done to put in place risk-related frameworks. We can support understanding of guidelines for use of AI in specific sectors that incorporates issues of risks. But importantly, we can upskill policymakers, elected representatives, civil servants. We can support digital skills training. But I'd also suggest throughout this whole effort, engaging the public on what it means to have a society with powerful and transformative AI should be critical in every single country across different levels of development. And so that's why I really welcome initiatives like AI Safety Asia, because I think countries like Laos at nascent stages are going to rely on international engagement and support to connect up to these global discussions. We have UNESCO's Global Forum on the Ethics of AI coming up in June. This is a great opportunity to engage policymakers across the region on what is a shared understanding of risks, what are standards and regulatory frameworks to address them, and to help project the voice of the public in each country to the regional and international stage. And I would, working with parliaments, I'd always suggest we need MPs on that multi-stakeholder discussion, as well as academic, civil society, industry, government, and so on. And if it's okay, I know I've gone on, but I want to make a final point, which is that a lot of effort has gone into supporting governments on AI to make sure they're AI ready. And AI adoption can have massive potential economic benefits, but it's going to be adopted across the public sector very rapidly in the name of efficiency. It's the role of parliaments to help oversee this, ensure that the public has redress, and that when decisions are made by AI systems, that the public know that this has happened. So this public conversation, listening to the voice of the public as these changes happen, I think is absolutely essential. Let's not leave elected representatives behind in AI governance efforts, as we're going to need them to play this role. And overall, I think we need a whole of society approach to help balance the risks and the challenges, both near term and long term. And we rely on our representatives to do this.
Perfect. I love the fact that we have the whole of society approach, as it seems, and we need to maybe indigenously change a lot on the bilateralism approach that we are establishing across board, because it means that we have to create a new stack of professionals that works on this on a global level. The diplomacy structure would definitely change when you have AI diplomats as technology diplomats across board, not just in currently, I would say, 3 countries globally, but across the mass of the global structure. Thank you, Alex, for your insight. I would like to turn in the microphone a little bit to Tran again and loop you in. I think you provided an amazing overview of the governance of AI safety in Vietnam, Brunei, and Laos, where AI safety and governance has become a critical topic, not just globally, but in the Southeast Asia, where each country faces unique opportunities and challenges. You have, estimated the fact that Vietnam has made a significant strides in developing AI policies with regulatory structure, discussing and focusing on personal data protections, AI risks, and sector-specific applications, while Brunei has prioritized cybersecurity integration with AI governance, ensuring critical infrastructure and national security remains safeguarded. While at the same time, Laos was an emerging AI adapter, I think, which is working on policy frameworks that align with sustainable development goals and ethical AI principles, amidst many other opportunity cycles. As we move forward into the stack development of all the investment assets that we should build for AI development and not just deployment on those countries, what would you prioritize? Tran, the question is yours.
So can I ask for a clarification for your question? Is it what should these countries prioritize
Yes.
in this landscape?
Exactly. What these countries should prioritize in order to build assets to help them deploy and develop AI infrastructure across the map?
I think for currently they're at very different stage of development, but for deployment, they all have a same space for other frontier models or foundational models to be deployed. So each country also have different levels of protection against those deployment. So I think they should care more about. So all of the country, I think, should care more about the deployment of AI system in their own country and quickly develop at least data protection or cybersecurity that use AI system in the different sectors. And for development, there's definitely always will be a disparity between development, but for deployment and like prevent against risk, they to ensure that all of the people in these countries are protected and to protect these economies and societies, I think deployment should be all the protection against deployment from other actors should be prioritized.
Got it. So balanced development across the map, but maybe prioritizing cybersecurity as well, strategy and trustworthiness structures. So on that note, I would like to loop in Fahmi Osman from the Cybersecurity Brunei ecosystem. And I would like to target a question around national security strategy and AI. How does Cybersecurity Brunei integrate AI risk management with the country's broader cybersecurity strategy? Are there specific frameworks in place, in your opinion, to assess and mitigate future risks as well, current risks that exist on the map?
Okay. In terms of cybersecurity, Cybersecurity Brunei, there's a Cybersecurity Act which has just been enacted last year. So although it is focused on critical information infrastructure, and there is no specific AI risk management in the section. I think it will cover a broader aspect of risk, not just AI. And just to share, there's currently a work in progress to revise the code of practice that is currently available to include security by design principle. And I'm hopeful that this revision will help to be more relevant to AI security. So in terms of framework for assessing and mitigate AI-related threats, so Brunei, through the Authority for Info Communication Technology Industry, AITI, has recently established an AI governance and ethics working group, where recently in July last year, a draft AI governance and ethics guideline for Brunei has been published for public consultation. So in this document, it contains the general guiding principles for organization that wants to adopt AI technologies in Brunei. So currently, this is the only AI specific framework and guideline that are available in Brunei. Yeah.
And in terms of critical infrastructure, given the Brunei focus on protecting critical infrastructure, what are the most pressing AI-related threats, for example, that you're trying to counter against? And how can AI safety policies aligned with national security objectives help in that?
I think in protecting critical information infrastructure, we see AI both provides as well as, for example, in terms of opportunity in protecting critical information infrastructure is, for example, our Cyberwatch Center is currently deploying AI-enabled tool to help mitigate cyber threat more efficient and faster. But on the other hand, I think the most pressing AI-related probably issues is to address the security related to AI system. So as you know, when the pace of development is high, for example, in this case, AI, security can often be secondary consideration. So AI must be developed and deployed, operated in a secure and responsible way. And as AI system, we see there are a number of novel or new kind of security vulnerabilities that need to be considered alongside standard cybersecurity threats. So with this in mind, I believe AI security must be a core requirement, not just in the development phase, but throughout the life cycle of the AI system. I just want to share there are a number of references that we can refer to in terms of AI security best practices. For example, recently the UK has published AI security code of practice, which we can refer to, as well as they also provide the implementation guide. I think it's a good reference and starting point to help aligning AI safety policies to national security objectives.
And how does it impact the national sovereignty structure on digital aspects when you are using the UK, for example, best practices, references? Do you think there is a merit of value in providing for the reference benchmark coming from Asian narrative in this sense?
I think the value is we need to look at what are the baseline security standard that is there. Then we can compare and contrast what we have in the region. And from there, we can try to develop our own AI security standard and guideline that can fit to the national security objectives.
Great answer, I would say. My last question is, how does Brunei collaborate with regional partners and international partners? I think you alluded to the collaboration model that you have for international partners, but I mean for regional partners and AI safety kind of initiatives, task forces, a future alignment analysis and open sandboxes, particularly in areas of cybercrime prevention and AI-driven threats, and intelligence sharing units. How do you see yourself aligning with regional actors and international actors?
Okay, in terms of cybercrime prevention, CSB or Cybersecurity Brunei through BRUCERT, which looks at incident response and security incident response, we collaborate with regional partners as well as international partners, such as other CERTs or computer emergency response teams. For example, we are a member of organizations such as Asia Pacific CERT, as well as Organization of Islamic Cooperation CERTs, which consists of member states from OIC members. So for example, in OIC CERT, within the community, we also have a working group as well as study group. For example, one of the group is looking at the AI security. So the objective of this group is to gain insights into and discuss what are the current hot topics of AI security. And effectively, within this community, we will do a knowledge sharing session where we can also share what are the current AI-driven threat intelligence, not just AI-driven threat intelligence, but cyber threat intelligence in general.
That's a great kind of initiative, and I hope that there will be a global flagship efforts to follow suit on this as well. Thank you so much, Fahmi Osman. My next question to Dan is, when it comes to the legal framework for AI governance, Vietnam has been actively developing its AI regulatory framework. Because of the sensitivity of Vietnam being one of the global emerging markets in technologies, not just AI, what are the key challenges in aligning those regulatory challenges with the global best practices, as we have discussed with Osman? But in this framework, ensuring that they fit for Vietnamese market competitiveness?
Thank you, Hoda. A very interesting question. First, before we dive into what is the best practice and what is the fit solution for Vietnam, I would like to tell you what is the regulation, the current regulation now. So the Vietnamese AI regulation is mostly based on the AI Act point of view because it has been drafted last year. So we are classifying the difference between the developer and the supplier and the deployer and the user, and each of those person have a different obligation. For example, the developer must ensure quality, fairness, must ensure the privacy, must ensure cybersecurity, must check and security risk, keep logs on the development and the measurement of AI system, conduct security risk assessment before providing the AI system, ensure the quality of training data, and coordinate with the supplier and the local governors to update and to resolve issue when you are providing the AI system here in Vietnam. So this is a regulation applicable to the developer. In terms of the deployers and the supplier, by the way, developer means the one who create a foundation model and deploy, but mostly means the international big tech company. For in terms of the deployer and the supplier, which is local market player, we only need to comply with certain obligation, including provide information to the user, establish mechanism to receive and process requests from a user and for the relevant government. So this is quite of good point in the Vietnamese regulation, because most of our economies are deployers, and we are we don't need to comply with so much regulation, so we are able to to build the local ecosystem quite easily. So after discussing about the framework, I'm talking about the problem. So what is the problem in Vietnam? The key problem, I think it's the same with everywhere in the global south. We have to balance between the development and over-regulation. So AI, there's three parts. It's always like that. Data and data center is a part, chip makers is a part, and tech and startup ecosystem is another part. So in terms of Vietnam, due to the lack of electricity power, so it's not easy for us to build large data centers. So we are choosing to build economics, tech and startup ecosystem instead. So we are focusing on how to how to support the startup, how to support a deployer to go international, to provide service to not just in Vietnam but for EU market. And this is and we have a very soft regulation system inside of the local market. So, this is how we are. This is how the Vietnamese regime is going. And I also see some question from Rayson, and I hope that is addressed your concern in terms of what is the approach of the Vietnamese regulation, and what is the focus of our Vietnam to in terms of the whole AI ecosystem. And Hoda, are you okay with? Is this clear for you? To
Yes, quite clear, I think, and interesting. We can go into particularities right now. I will give a chance for the audience questions. We still have enough time for that at the end of our round of questions, we'll go through the chat for them as well to make sure that we address everybody's concerns. So my question here is also about AI systems, which are often rely on vast amount of training data, as you have just said. And you clearly identified the importance of issuing regulations for these training data sets, even on a deployment structure, because they are considered part of sovereign data structures. In EU, for example, with the DMA Acts and the Privacy Acts, we've seen a huge tension existing between the big AI development companies in the United States and the EU on data privacy aspects that delayed release of AI tools in European markets. And it's been sort of a tug war in between the different ecosystems, embodying a leverage structure from the big tech on the government to release or relieve the pressure that exists from these kind of regulatory aspects. So how does Vietnam evolve those personal data protection laws to address AI concerns and risks and development aspects? And what are the red lines or the gaps that would remain there to protect, residential data that exists across the map?
Yeah. So in terms of data governance and data protection regulation, I can say that the Vietnamese system are mostly consent-based system. So what does it mean? In order to protect personal data protection, we have to ensure the consent, the data consent. We have to ensure the transparency. We have to ensure the accountability, the right to withdraw, the right to be forgotten. But here in Vietnam, mostly, the priority of the governance is only a consent-based problem. So in terms of transparency and accountability, I have to say that we don't have the mechanism to address the issue. So it turns out to become there's some kind of risk, kind of AI risk relating to transparency and accountability that cannot be addressed here in Vietnam yet. For example, if your data has been used to train the models unwillingly, without a consent, you can claim to you can go to the government to asking them to remove your data. However, in case you want to request for compensation, you want to request for the transparency at the whole life cycle of the AI model development, it is not easy, and the people don't have the mechanism to do it by their own. So this is a problem. The second problem here is that we don't have a quite international adequacy ratio in comparison with the other country. So we didn't yet join with the CBBR program. I mean, cross-border data privacy transfer regime. It is a disadvantage for the local companies to enjoy the global data protection, to share data cross-border. So we keep sharing actually, but without a regulation, international regulation that can protect us and can protect our people. So this is the second problem in terms of data governance in Vietnam. Besides those problems, we also see that the Vietnamese government are focusing on cybersecurity and national security very strongly. So maybe the people, maybe the person, and maybe the small company don't have the regime to protect the data, but the government are protecting the whole country data in terms of national security and in terms of cybersecurity quite well. So this is some of my my
Very
experience.
interesting, I think, Dane, especially given the fact that you highlighted that there is a huge infrastructure of data sharing that goes around that need to be governed somehow by rigorous monitoring aspects, transparency structure that shows who has access to the data across the map. We can discuss this further, hopefully, if we try it raises again within the questions. I would like to ask you one application question before picking up question. I think we will have in 5 minutes, we can stop for audience question for 30 minutes. We'll have 30 minutes to go through audience questions collectively. So for now, one last question for you is around the application layer. As someone who is in technology and legal structures in technology, do you see applicability structures for technology laws and AI that's being currently used in Vietnam and legal sector, for example, expanding? And what are the legal and ethical challenges that you're very mindful of, especially with AI and decision-making structures on laws?
Okay, very interesting question. So we're moving from tech in legal to legal tech aside.
Yes. We cannot let you go of this panel without asking the experts in the room. Do you see the new AI and court system or not yet?
Okay. Let's try to setting our own kind of legal tech that we have and we can have in Vietnam, likely. Firstly, the court, the Vietnamese court, already have a system to digitalize all the court decision in the whole innocent system. So we are expecting somehow in one day that we can provide the service like outcome predictable, like court. This is one application, the first application, but this is governed by the government and is provided by the largest telco in Vietnam called Viettel and the High Court in Vietnam. So this project is still running. The second thing, the second kind of legal tech that we have is that filling the form automatically, which is not using Gen AI or some very high developed technology, but it's quite effective in terms of digitalize the government. So I see some government, the Ministry of Public Security in Vietnam and the Ministry of Health in Vietnam. They are building a system to connect between the health data and the civil data. So when you go to the hospital and you're asking for social insurance, you don't need to fill the form two times. So you don't need. It's its own automatically, and this project is still running on. So this is the second legal tech that we have in Vietnam, in terms of the government and the civil and the civics and the civil aspect. So in terms of the business aspect, we have fairly have some startups in terms of contract drafting, contract reviewing automatic, so okay, let's talk about the contract reviewing automatic, because this is my project. We are annotating a set of the contract data, working with the University of Law to trying to and based on that, you can automatically review the contract with some set of data and set of rules that you already setting out. But if we the challenging is still there. If you want to have a good application, you need to have a good data from the beginning. So one of the largest challenge when we are doing those things is that we don't have a quite developed data center and the data and the good quality data to fit those models. So we have to do from the beginning to labeling the data in so many regulation and in so many contract form.
I think there is plenty of room here for localizing assets within Vietnamese market to make sure that you can do the training structure on the data banks locally, and also use a bit of agentic AI or AI agents that would help you develop for these capacities on the longer run. Of course, the ethical component is something that we did not discuss yet, but I'm sure we will benefit from, the greater concepts that exist in global markets and as well in the local Vietnamese market. So right now,
just 1 minute. In terms of ethical, because I just forget it, but I think there's only two kind of issue when the law firm and when we are applying AI in the legal industry. First is the hallucination. How do you control the hallucination of the product when using Gen AI? Secondly is the privacy secret of the business. When you are the AI developer or deployer, you provide service for law firm. The first question there we're asking is, okay, how it is make sure that our client information do not going public in some day. So this is just a two point in terms of ethical from my side during my experience here that I want to add on.
Perfect. I think it's time to jump a little bit to the audience questions. And Alex, I'd like to take permission from you because I have a few questions for you, but maybe I delay them to take audience questions. And I think we have really great questions here. And maybe we can take the first one that can go for you, Alex. The question is saying, my understanding is that Asian is playing a different game to this global AI race, focusing on data centers. This is the question from Ray Sun. More than building the next generation AI model, which is dominated by the US and China at the moment. He's already seeing this in strategies in Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand. Will we also expect Vietnam to work on the same kind of pathways? So I think the question could be for you, Dan, as well, on this aspect, and maybe for anybody else who wants to pitch in. But from a UNDP perspective, Alex, would you like to start, and then we can channel it to the others?
I think I'd hand over to others on that because it's much more on the legal system in Vietnam, which I'm not familiar with. There is a question on youth, which I can come back to. I'm more than happy to do it.
This is not on the legal system. This is more on the priorities for developing AI structures, so we can take the perspective from the others. Whoever want to pitch in, Asian perspective, what are our priorities on the game, on the AI global game? Are we focusing on data centers more than building next generation AI models? These are relevant, and the strategies reflected in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand. Would also Vietnam be expected to follow suit, or Laos and Brunei as well, on the same kind of focus on data centers? Who want to take this first?
I'll just make a very quick point.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just in this respect, I don't see that Laos, in its current state of digital maturity, will be close to building significant data centers or having its own industry for a long time. But my quick point is that the top priority in order to harness AI effectively, and then you also asked how can Laos harness AI towards the SDGs. The top priority is having good quality data sets that are reflective of the population, including in Laos, where you have very disparate and many ethnic groups and languages. How do we help to build, curate, and make accessible these data sets? Because without these, I don't see how nationally specific AI products are really going to be developed. So when UNDP working with developing countries, I think once there's a minimum level of digital infrastructure in place, the next effort has to be around building compute capacity or sharing compute capacity across countries, data, which is the key one, good quality data sets, and then developing skills and talent. And this is where UNDP is supporting in Africa an AI capacity development hub to assist African countries in this efforts, and perhaps we may see something in Asia in future.
Interesting, very interesting. So the focus on the data training as an asset structure, or data as well as an asset structure that should exist. Possibly what Ray Son is alluding to here, and the fact that the focus on data centers could be as well justified, but maybe from a centric governance in between Asian countries rather than just Laos developing their own infrastructure on this. Any kind of takers for the input on this structure as well from Dan, Tran, or as well Fahmi, Osman? Okay, then I will jump to the next question. So the next question is for, let's see this. The next question is about the legal governance. Maybe it would be for you, Dan, again. How can we legally govern the AI output when the AI is providing an output which contains PIIs? From Abhishek Mukherjee.
Well, I believe that part of those questions have been addressed during my presentation, but I will try to.
I think this is a specific question to make it really easy for us. I think it talks about the accuracy and reliability structures of AI output, and this is something that's under huge fire at the moment. We know that it's 30-40% of reliability structure. Hallucination as are expected to be normalized within those structures. So using them on a legal governance structure can be a little bit, a challenging position, because the trustworthiness of this output is quite difficult, as you have said, Dan, quite a number of times now on this kind of structure. Okay, so I think you addressed as well the question of digital technology law in Vietnam in terms of approach to regulatory structure. There is a question on disruptive technologies and disproportional impact on children AI. Is no difference. Is anyone on the panel aware of any conversation happening on national or pan-Asian levels to ensure AI safety policy strategies, specifically around the impact on youth or incorporating their thoughts? Actually, yes, a great question from Beckett Leclerc. I'm part of a global coalition structure that exists within the ITU. Actually, there is something that's called the POP network, which focuses on protection for children and youth and adults as well from AI and digital technologies. We're working very closely with industries across the map to change the industrial structure of technology development so they can provide for safety measures for children. With the World Economic Forum, there is a coalition on AI safety that we're developing, pushing forward. Actually, next month on, if I'm not mistaken, March 27th in the UK, there will be the symposium on trustworthiness of AI, where we will be talking again about the impact of AI safety on children and how we are as well not just talking about regulation, standardization, but actually changing the tools with Roblox, with the likes of Roblox and with the likes of Snapchat and with the likes of YouTube and Meta to fit into children protection on those aspects. A lot to be made on this ground, and I would like to hear from the panelists if they were willing as well to share any type of such initiatives on the ground happening in Asian countries. And to just let you know, the mass of our participants in this group is actually coming from Philippines, coming from Indonesia, in terms of the data sets and pools representing the different structures. Anyone else in the panelists who would like to pitch in into this question? If not, then the next question would be for actually the organizers of the roundtable, Leanne and Steve and others. What is the vision of this Asian AI safety network? Would anybody would like to come in and then also explain this in brief? I think they already explained it at the beginning of the conversation. It would not be really harmful to just do it again.
I mean, I'm happy to jump in, but I also see that
Go on,
Alex,
please,
you
Edward.
have raised your hand
Do
for
that.
the previous question, so I'm happy to go after you, Alex.
Yes, go ahead, Alex.
It's okay, I could go ahead on this specific question, and if I have time, I'll come back to the youth issues, because Hoda gave a brilliant explanation of all the different initiatives that are going on around the world on that. So go ahead, please, Ed.
Yeah.
Sure. So I guess the audience question is mainly referring to a request for proposal that initiated by the Malaysian government since they are the chairman of the ASEAN this year. They are basically exploring the possibility of setting up a network of AI safety in ASEAN. So that approach is somewhat similar to the China approach, where you have, instead of one single AI safety institute, like what you are seeing in the UK, or now it's called AI Security Institute, and a number of other countries. In China, you have a network of AI safety. So you have the Beijing Institute, you also have the Shanghai Institute, etc. So they are trying to decentralize it with a number of institutes. And I suppose the Malaysian government is also trying to explore this possibility, knowing that in ASEAN, Singapore is the only country that has their own safety institute to do both frontier safety, but also some of the evaluation and benchmarking. So that's what the Malaysian request for proposal is about. It's too early for us to tell, but I think there's definitely a lot of value to be considered there, because it might not be feasible and practical for each of the ASEAN countries to have their own safety institute. It's quite an investment in the R&D, and some of the frontier safety work might not be directly relevant to their own context as well. So that's definitely something worth considering.
Perfect. Thank you so much for clarifying that, Edward. I think it's quite clear at the moment. Alex, the floor is yours. I'm sorry I missed your intervention earlier.
I just wanted to cover a little bit the issue of youth, because it's something that concerns me. And, you know, I often think, how can we get the voices of young people and those that are affected by AI into the conversation? And I think there's more and more evidence that LLMs and chatbots can be used to develop synthetic relationships with people. And it really makes me concerned for young people growing up in their teenage years, when they begin to rely on emotional support and engagement with an AI model. And I think, again, it's how do we get the voices into the conversation? How is the impact on regulation? And many parliaments that I work with, we support committees that focus on issues of young people and child rights, to conduct detailed inquiries, to go out, to listen to people, to bring into the parliaments technologists, young people, charities, civil society, so they get a broad 360 view of the type of impact this is happening. And that then goes on recommendations to change legislation, introduce new legislation, change policy. And some of these impacts on children, I think, would mandate laws around knowing that you're dealing with AI online, for example. And then in international fora, I think it's really important that all of the evidence that's being gathered at national level is transmitted to these discussions on global AI governance, so we can include the voice of children in global AI governance frameworks and debates and so on.
Very well said, I would say. I want to ask one last question from the audience, and then maybe we can wrap up, because we have almost 15 minutes on this, according to what Max initially initiated for all of us. Thank you so much. So the question is about, is it fair to say that Vietnamese Brunei Laotian approach to AI is mostly focused on data cybersecurity perspective compared to the West approach, which is EU, with the EU and US, which are looking more into product safety, market competition perspective. I wouldn't say the same, honestly speaking. I would say that the Brunei Laotian and Vietnamese approach has much more innovation structure that also comes to mind by tackling issues that exist within the data structures, within as well cybersecurity. But I would also allow the rest of the team to comment on this. Fahmi, Dan, or Tran, would you like to comment on this as well as Alex? Do you think that the current perspective is more towards protectionism and data asset structures rather than creativity of innovation, building new products, market competition, and maybe product safety analysis from this perspective? This is a question, I think, from Ray as well, Son.
I'd like to take this chance to answer this question. For me,
Go ahead,
thank you, Hoda. From my perspective, the Vietnamese law is quite comprehensive. Actually, it still have the right for the personal to do their to do their right. Same with the AI Act, UK Act, and West Side. But but it comes to force, we need more, I think, tools for the people to conduct their right. So the regulation is comprehensive, but the tools and the platforms is lack. So this is and we still need to have more times because it's quite new for Vietnam to start exploring, balancing between the development and the protection of the people. I think we are not pro-security, so much pro-security, but security and cybersecurity is the first priority of the government now. Because of our special geopolitical position, but the law developed alongside with with the reality and with the social economic development. So I think shortly we will see the difference in the next couple of years. So balance between human being, between development and business, and between the cybersecurity will be in the middle of the policy of Vietnam in the future. That's what I understand.
Thank you, Dan. Very clear. But I think as well, there is a huge level of opportunity in building trustworthy AI, cybersecurity compliant AI, because that will be as well the future of a new product safety that we're putting in the market. So it's a new competitive analysis, regardless if it's been done at the moment from a governmental perspective or not. So I think towards Ray's question, you're indirectly working your way towards that kind of economic competitiveness as well. Fahmi, would you like to add to this? And maybe Tran, if you want to.
Yeah, I just want to add, for example, in terms of AI security and data privacy, I think we should not look at as separately as development, because we should see AI security as part of the development. As I mentioned before, we should look into secure by design approach. So when we have, for example, AI, a secure AI, we can trust the AI technologies more, and thus it can help to foster innovation while ensuring the AI to remain secure and reliable. Yeah,
I agree with you totally. Tran, would you like to add anything from a regional perspective? If not, I
No,
think then,
really.
go ahead,
Thank you.
Tran, go ahead.
I don't have anything to add now. Thank you.
No issues. Alex, anything else?
It's not really my area of expertise, but I think, you know, what I hope is that what happen in future is that throughout the life cycle of AI, from design, development, and deployment, that we have accountability mechanisms built in that can help address issues like cybersecurity. And for that, I think we need a massive digital literacy push amongst policymakers and elected officials to be able to hold government and companies to accountable for these standards and frameworks. So I would see it as a end-to-end approach with accountability at each step.
Yeah, yeah. And as well, I wanted you to consider something very important here, that as we are discussing the outlook, as Alex just highlighted, and the landscape, we all have recommendations around assets that need to be developed. And you as ecosystem partners in the Asian network, you have a huge leverage to build an impact. If I asked you just 10 minutes to the time of the closure, what would be your top 3 priorities? What would you prioritize in order to not just address deployment, but also development of AI tools and AI ecosystems within your own jurisdictions, and as well to address economic competitiveness on a regional, local, and international level? What would you consider? Would we like to start maybe with the Tran?
I think currently one of the questions in the Q&A also highlight a problem or an like an outlook for the conversation between technical AI safety researcher and AI governance and policymaker.
Yeah,
we
answered that.
currently, yeah, I think currently in Asia, there's the field for technical AI safety researcher is still very young, and there has been a lot of grassroots organizations like White Box Research in the Philippines that are doing emerging, exciting field building work for researcher in the technical side of AI, AI safety. But for connecting technical safety to AI governance, I think for in Asia, it's a big challenge because the conversation between researcher and policymaker is still, there's still a gap for those two stakeholders. And I think for technical researchers, there's more opportunities to converse with policymaker more in like the US or UK or in other working from those AI safety institutes. But for people who are living in Southeast Asia or Global South, it's very difficult to have conversation with policymaker. So hopefully, I think in the future, if we can have more conversations between local people who understand about AI safety, not only in technical but also governance, that would be ideal. And a more collaboration between different kinds of institutions in the ecosystem, not only government or developer, but also like education institutes, civil societies. I think that would very much foster a more inclusive and more inclusive and holistic perspectives on AI safety, not only for policy perspective, but also for the normal people as well, people who are using the technology would care about as well.
Love it. So the concept of the whole of the society, the concept of do not leave regulations behind and policy making behind, bring it to the forefront of the table as you develop the technology is very important. Thank you, Tran. That's quite very enlightening. Alex, what would be your priorities from your perspective?
Yeah, thanks for bringing me in after Tran, because I couldn't agree more. And when I talk to MPs, I feel that these institutional linkages between what existing governance institutions do and the pace of change, so connecting up policymakers to AI safety experts, industry, research, civil society. At the moment, I don't see that's happening in a really systematic way. So my first point would be that we need our existing governance institutions to evolve as quickly as the technology is evolving. And to do that, it needs stronger institutional links between different bodies. So I fully agree with Tran on that. But I'd go beyond it really to say, when we're building those links, we need to support a public conversation about what it means to have societies with transformative AI. And this is where I think policymakers should really be at the center to help build resilience to disruption, to help address safety risks, but also to help define shared values and ethics of AI use. So that's where bringing people together in things like town halls, public consultations, education programs should really help. And around the world, there's novel there's novel mechanisms like citizens' assemblies that help bring these people together and help the public to define what it means to have acceptable levels of risk on issues like AI safety, for instance. So those are my two main points. Yeah. And thanks a lot for Tran for articulating it well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So institutional support and in building the institutions to support what just Tran said in terms of building for these long-term assets and making sure that AI safety across board is being placed on the map as a priority as well. Dan, what's your perspective on priorities for any type of long-term assets that you want to build to address deployment, development, and economic competitiveness of ASEAN regions?
Thank you, Hoda. I think I agree with Alex. The only one thing that I want to add on is that we have to consider the local economic system of Southeast Asia. So so AI is, as I mentioned, is all about data, data center, chip, and the ecosystem of the deployers. So as long as we cannot produce in Southeast Asia produce the chip, we cannot easily have a large data center. So we should focus on how to build a good ecosystem. So how to build a good ecosystem? We should focus on how to make the data transfer easily and safely. How to have the policy for the SME to do more research and do more application that can use that is suitable for Southeast Asia. And as a regulator, I would suggest that you should address more in terms of the culture bias and what is the hard standard in terms of cybersecurity and what is the soft standard of culture bias in terms of the Southeast Asia. This is my point of view.
So building indigenous assets that would address the cultural differences, the unique nonsense that exists for AI needs within these kind of different jurisdictions within ASEAN ecosystem is quite important. And the second aspect is also incorporating soft law and soft structures as well as hard standards and regulations into the map of this. I do remember that we are doing this roundtable after the Paris action, AI action. And I remember in Paris AI Action, the open source community unified together under $400 million donation to build AI for good, exactly for what you have said, Dan, is to build accountability structures around AI that are open sourced, that is unifying the vision and the field beyond what the big tech is trying to build across the different kind of black boxes that exist. And I'm hoping for ASEAN countries, we will see something of a similar power to exist as well, and also for other regions around the world. Fahmi, Osman, what would be your intake on this?
I agree with Dan. We need to have a good ecosystem, but I want to also add, we also need to have to improve our capability and capacity of our people. We need to have a lot more AI expert, AI researcher in the region. And secondly, for AI safety policies, I just want to reemphasize that the AI should be in the core requirement of the policy to help improve, enhance the national cybersecurity. Thank you.
Perfect. So making sure that we structure those assets around cybersecurity and trustworthiness is quite important. Thank you so much, Fahmi, for this. I think we're just exactly on time. Thank you so much for my fellow panelists for helping us stay updated and as well as stay connected to the purpose that we have here on the table. There is a lot to offer for a global majority and global South when it comes to the dialogue of AI, and especially to the ASEAN conversation on the table. Vietnam, Laos, and Brunei, they stand to offer a lot in terms of action power when it comes to building for indigenous communities and building structures across board. As we have heard today, join me in thanking my panelists, Tran, as well as Fahmi, Osman, Alex, Dan, and Andrew, and Alec, and I think Max, Melissa, who helped a lot, and Yeye and Lian, who helped a lot in kicking start this first iteration, but hopefully not the last iteration of the conversation on a very, very important dialogue across the map. Once more, thank you, Tran, thank you, Alex, thank you, Dan, and thank you, Fahmi, for your time and effort today in giving us proper, accurate visibility of the situation on the ground. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And just a couple of things before we head out. Thanks for this very productive conversation. I hope you learned a lot. I certainly learned a lot. And two things: follow us on LinkedIn, AI Safety Asia, for further updates. We're having next roundtable on the 3rd of March, which will be focusing on Cambodia, East Timor, and Myanmar. And so that will be very exciting. Looking forward to that. And also, yeah, just follow us on LinkedIn essentially for any updates. And this recording will be uploaded in a few days as well. So thanks so much for that. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.